Good evening. Dan with Fowl Play. It's a little cooler outside. It's a nice break. Got a lot to talk about. We've had some hard lessons on the farm in the last 3 weeks or so since you saw us last. We'll talk about that. And then of course there's Sammy Jean. She's my girl. But first, let's give him some treats. Follow us.
Who wants to jump up for a grape? Who wants to jump up for one? Come on, jump. Come on, Dick. You can do it. Get your bottom off the ground, girl.
It's grape time for the flock. Percy, Miss Hope.
Beautiful out here today. Temperature is tremendously better. Oh, that hard forward,
Hope has a little egg. There it is. There's Hope's egg. Almost blue. It's
It's almost
blue.
a blue color, yeah. It's a light,
That's what we were
like a
hoping.
robin's egg blue.
So we were hoping.
That would be a little bit different shade. I just got some over
They still think we have treats.
Thank you for the beautiful eggs, girls. You're beautiful.
Good job, ladies.
Good job, girls.
Astra for sure. Always Astra. Little whiny Astra. We know that voice anywhere. So as I mentioned a moment ago, hard lessons. This last week, it would have been a week ago exactly, this last weekend. There's Ginger and Lovey. There's Patrick. Look how big he is. And he has his girls. Oh, yep, there they are. I became very ill. I'm going to walk down the little trail here. I'll show you, talk and show you our trail. Mrs. Fowl Play already had to leave for work. You probably saw her in her uniform there in the previous segment. I got very ill. Long story short, I came down with a high fever, severe chills, and of course we thought it was a certain virus, which turned out to be negative. I had 2 different tests to be sure that it wasn't. And it turned out it was a tick-borne illness. And the doctor decided to go ahead and treat me for a full course of 21 days of antibiotics, mostly for Rocky Mountain spotted fever. And that's where the ticks come from, trying to keep the lagoon mowed down. I've got to be more mindful of using DEET and bug repellent. I've had multitude of tick bites and ticks that I've pulled off my legs, especially my legs. So we'll just show you the trail real quick. It's been a while since we showed it to you, and I've gotten just a little bit further on the trail. I call it, rabbit. Call it phase 1, I guess. So I got things cleared out all the way to our, we call it a pond, but it's hard to see it as a pond. It's more of a scum pond. I think we have a sand plum tree that's dropping some sand plums. Looks like little red cherries. And so I got things cleared out all the way, like I said, to our, we have 2 ponds back here. And as I was clearing brush, something was living, or still is living in there. You could have a nightmare about that. Something come popping up out of there. So I made it all the way back to one of our ponds with the trails. Cleared this out. And there's one of our ponds in all of its glory. Take a look at that, folks. That is quite a scum pond. A lot of life in there still. Frogs, snakes. Maybe one of these days we'll be able to get some aeration in there and clear these up a little bit. If this were Florida, boy, those would be some suspicious little mounds floating on top of the water, wouldn't it? So here we are, back to the pond. He's made a little place to sit over here. In the trees, and then from here we'll carry the trail going off to the east that way. Kind of cool though. Opened it up a little bit. So this is our isolation pen, and you can see we have 3 chicks in here. And that was, we had the fan going in the background. Sorry, it's just been so hot. These guys need some air moving in here. So we have some chicks that Chris answered a Craigslist ad recently for a certain breed of chicks. They called themselves a breeder. This is the second hard lesson we learned, and Mrs. Fowl feels bad about it, and we both do. We've got these chicks from the breeder, Mrs. Fowl did, and these 3 seem to be healthy, but we had 2 that were very much not healthy. And because they were a certain breed, Mrs. Fowl was really excited to get them, and kind of maybe overlooked some of the conditions that she got the chicks from. And it's just not the same conditions that we keep our flock. I mean, we're so diligent about keeping things clean, keeping things picked up and in good shape for our flock. And long story short, we had 2 little chicks that had serious eye infections. Their eyes were swollen shut. We did everything we could to save them, and we just couldn't. And one chick wasn't even growing at all. So Saturday we had to put 2 chicks down. That's a hard day. So we have a couple little chicks that we laid to rest next to Sophie. But we really did everything we could. But that was a hard lesson for us to not overlook the conditions where you get chicks, and maybe to get chicks from a reputable dealer, maybe from a farm store. Just be mindful about the conditions you see if you ever consider that. So that was a hard lesson for us as well. Let's check on Queenie, shall we? So, I don't know if you can see her very well. You can't see her very well through. Let's run in here real quick. Queenie is still our Queenie. She's still with us. She is still her little floppy self. Very much out of balance. So we have her still in the isolation pen, kind of by herself, because the rest of the flock has been picking on her still. But there's our sweetheart. She's still with us. There was one day where we thought we were going to lose her. She was so floppy and couldn't even get up off the ground. We were so scared for her. But she's eating and drinking and still being her. She's still feisty little self. She's gained some weight because she doesn't get around very good, and we can't let her run around with the rest of the flock. Sometimes we put her in the garden, I should say, and that way the rest of the flock doesn't pick on her, because she is getting picked on by the rest of the flock. But she's still trying hard, our feisty little Queen Esther. She's still with us.